listeners, this is the Happy Bird Music Studio podcast. Happy Bird Music Studio is a teaching studio and music education blog and podcast for parents and students. Please visit our website, happybirdmusicstudio.ca, and follow us on Twitter @happybirdmusic and like us on Facebook. My name is Nicole Bowers. I'm the creator of Happy Bird Music Studio, and I'm a happy music teacher here in Ottawa, Ontario. This is our first episode, and our first special guest is the founder of Music for Young Children, MYC, Frances Mae Balodis. Tell us a bit about why you created the Music for Young Children program.
I created Music for Young Children in 1980 because our own two children were very young at the time, and I wanted them to have music instruction that was fun and yet meaningful, that would be playful, but that would also lead to a recognizable level of music education, and which is why in Music for Young Children, the last level of Music for Young Children is Conservatory Grade 1, so that when children graduate from Music for Young Children and go to a private teacher, perhaps a different private teacher, because their Music for Young Children teacher can't take all those students privately, then that private teacher can know, oh, you've got your grade 1. So that's really grand. And now we can proceed with, things in grade 2 and so on. Although the children, I wanted the program to be really well-rounded, which is why there's rhythm and singing. I think singing is really important in developing the musician. So there's rhythm and singing and rhythm ensemble, again, using another instrument, but being able to flesh out the rhythm challenges. And of course they need to read music, and they then can compose, and so that's another aspect of it. They can learn about the composers, so that they learn about famous composers, but they themselves can be a composer. So I wanted a really well-rounded approach. And our own two children, Mark and Olivia, at the time were young, and so it was the ideal time to do it.
And how important do you think music education is for kids? Why should every child be doing something musical?
I think that music education is really important because it teaches them so many things. It helps them become disciplined and focused. It helps them learn to concentrate. It helps them understand that there are some things in life for which you need to practice to be good. If a child takes swimming lessons, that's great. They go to swimming once a week, everybody's happy, they come home, they never see the pool again for another week. Next week they put their bathing suit on, they go to swimming. It's not a thing that they practice every day unless they want to be a competitive swimmer, and then that offers its own discipline, as many sports do when they become competitive and really focused. Music from the very beginning needs to have the repetition that happens every day. And when I get the opportunity to practice with our grandson Quinn, who is now 4, who's going into Sunshine 2, his mom and dad, David and Olivia, don't say to him, "Would you like to practice, Quinn?" They say, "Well, when would you like to practice, or would you like to practice in 3 minutes or 5 minutes?" So when I practiced with him yesterday and the day before, I just said to him, "Oh, well, soon as that," he was watching a television program, and I said, soon as that television program's over, he'd had a little time to decompress when he came home from school, and he was watching TV, so I said, soon as that television program's over, then we'll go and practice our music. "Okay, Grandma." And so then when it was time to practice the music, he said to me, "Are we practicing a long practice or a short practice?" And I said, "Oh, I think we'll practice 3 songs today." So the child learns that they don't necessarily need to practice for a very excessively long time, which is very upsetting to them, but just a little, again, you want to keep it really positive. And the whole thing about coloring the key in to show how many days you've practiced. Look at that. We've already practiced 3 days this week. Isn't that great? So I think that studying music enhances and reinforces good listening skills. It also reinforces the learning, because some children learn mostly through visual. Some children learn through listening to things. Some children definitely learn through touching stuff. And so it reinforces their learning styles and helps them understand what their learning styles are. So I think that there's many aspects that can be appreciated from studying music. Never mind how beautiful music is, and they can appreciate listening to music more. So I think it's really important for children to study music and to listen to music of the great masters, as well as listen to music of the current day. So, and it's interesting how children can then discern, oh, I can hear the patterns in our present day music, just like you can hear music patterns in music by famous composers. So I think that the study of music is very important, and it also helps children learn to read another language. And so, for example, when Olivia went to school, the teacher, because her brother had gone to school before her 2 years before, and he had been able to read, he was already reading English when he went to school. The teachers at the same school, of course, comparing siblings, said, oh, and does Olivia read? And I said, Olivia reads music really well, but she does not read any English at this time, but she will learn to read very quickly. And she did, because once children understand that the printed symbol on the page means something, whether it's looking at a music note or looking at English, there's a great connection there. So I think that reading music is really helpful in learning to read. And parents are reading to their children. Parents should be reading, and I know many of them are reading to their children as when they're going to bed at night and reading them lots of stories. And so why not be reading music?
How important do you think parental involvement in practicing and even music lessons is?
I think parental involvement is really important. And sometimes people have asked me, how long did you practice with your children when they took lessons? Well, I was still involved with Olivia's practice when she was doing her grade 10 piano. Does that tell you how long? And the child started, certainly when she was 3. When she's doing grade 10 piano, she was a teenager. I think it's important for parents to be involved at the lesson because then they see what the child is being taught, how the child is being taught, what it means. Particularly in music for young children, if a child went to a lesson without the parent and came home and said, oh, Dad, I learned about Fireman Fred today. Really? I thought you went to music to learn about music, so why were you talking about firemen? The connection might not be there as easily as if Dad is sitting there or moving with the children and learning music with the children. So I think it's really important that the parent be there. It's difficult sometimes for parents to come to the lesson and not foist their opinion and their pressure upon, at home you did this so much better. That's not an appreciative reason for them to be at music lesson. And we all sometimes feel that, I did that so much better yesterday. Well, every moment of our life is a new snapshot, right? So it's good that a parent comes. And it's helpful also if it can be the same person who comes to the lesson. But these days, sometimes that's not possible because of family circumstances. And so if one time Dad comes with the child and then the next time Mom has to come with the child, a really good thing to do that I always find very helpful, if the teacher doesn't mind, and you can ask the teacher if she does mind or he does mind, is just record the lesson. And these days it's so easy with phones and stuff, you can just audio record it. And so then when the child, if the child has a split living custody arrangement, then the recording can go to the other home. And so then the other person can hear. The other thing that happens sometimes too is that you have nannies who come to the lesson, and that's fine, or you have grandparents who come to the lesson. That's fine if they come to the lesson, but they need to communicate what needs to happen between now and the next lesson. So, it's not just that the nanny came as a method of transportation or to fulfill the requirement that an adult come with the child. So then how could the parent become involved in the practicing time, or how could the adult become involved in the practicing time with the child? That's easy. The homework sheet will show what's required, or it should show what's required for the child to do. The parent obviously can remember also from class, oh yes, we need to play C is a creepy crawly critter, or we need to play, or we need to sing, hop, hop, bunnies hop, whatever. Sleepy panda, sleepy panda. So, but some parents don't like to sing, and they don't feel comfortable singing. So they may not want to do that, but they could even turn to the singing section of the book and say, oh, remember when we sang the Sleepy Panda song? And the child may be able to sing it, or they may be able to use their castanet. The other thing that I always did with my children, and that I do with Quinn, is I put the tin sheet on the table beside where we eat. And so Quinn said to me when he was at our place a little while ago, Grandma, why do you have the tin sheet on our table? And I said, because when we eat, we do tin sheet. And then it's not like, oh gosh, I forgot to do tin sheet this week. You can do tin sheet every time you eat. And so when you're waiting for the food to come to the table, or a little while after you eat, then you can say, let's look on our tin sheet and find Mrs. Trebleclef's favorite note. There's G. Let's find bouncing B on top of Mr. Bassclef. And so you can put 2 or 3 magnets on your tin sheet. That's it. It's not a long ordeal where you're suffering through, oh, I don't want to do this. No, we're not going to encourage that kind of language. We're just going to have 2 or 3 notes on the tin sheet. Bang, that's it. It's over. And now we can hop down from the table, and we've done our tin sheet.
There's even some foods you can incorporate into the tin sheet, I'm sure.
Well, you can do on the tin sheet things like Cheerios. That's an automatic fun thing to do. One of the things I don't support is parents rewarding children with practicing with candy. I think it's not because I don't like candy. I can eat chocolate along with the next gal. But I don't think it's a reward that really is a good idea. So I don't use Smarties on the tin sheet for that reason, because some children will say, oh, well, if I have Smarties, then I can eat them. Yeah, you can. And Smarties will work. And it's not a disaster to do that. But if the child is mainly doing it for the Smartie benefit, I'm not sure that I go along with that. But each to their own, I guess, but I don't do that. So I think that parental involvement in practicing is important. And practicing is not just sitting at the piano. And I also think that parents need to be careful when they are practicing with their children about their own mental attitude and their own feeling. Because if dad comes rushing in from work, sit down, let's practice this piano, nobody's having a good time. So then that is not a good time to practice. Pick another time. With our son, when he was a little boy, the time for him to practice was before school in the morning. Why? Because then when other boys came to call on him, or he wanted to go to Cubs or whatever after school, I was teaching after school too, teaching piano. It didn't work for him to practice after school. It was always a big but practiced in the morning, for a short time it worked beautifully. Olivia, on the other hand, when she practiced such a short time each time she practiced. It was very challenging for me as a parent not to want to stay at the piano a little longer, or not to do a rhythm story, write it out with our popsicle sticks and rubber jar rings and make the music story, to do it longer. No, Olivia would go to the piano. She would probably be there a maximum of 3 to 5 minutes, gone. Even when Olivia was doing her grade 8 piano, and you might think, oh, well, at grade 8 piano, she probably practiced an hour. Yes, she probably did practice an hour, but she practiced it in 15-minute chunks. So she'd practice, leave the piano, go do something else. Come back another time, practice the piano. So I think that parents need to be aware of their own mental state and how happy or tired they are at the time. Because if you really lose your cool, then that transfers right away to the child. And then the child, do you think tomorrow the child is going to say, yes, I'd like to practice? If dad's come home and gone, okay, get to the piano. Rah, rah, rah. No, that's not, nobody wants to interact with their dad or with their mom in that. And parents are very, very busy, and I appreciate that. I have been a busy parent. I'm a busy grandparent. I'm a busy person now, even when I'm retired. I direct a choir, and we have lots of activities. Gunnar and I play in a bell choir, and we do lots of things. So we're very busy, but you need to approach these tasks when you kind of schedule your time out so that you can take a breath and enjoy it. I mean, practicing with your child should not be like, oh yeah, I got to do this again. No, it should be a happy time, maybe a short time. So that's what I think.
With getting back to school and everyone's schedule is kind of exploding and piano starting at the same time, what are some suggestions you'd give to parents to start the practicing schedule and to pick the right time?
I would have a discussion with my child, even if they're little. And I might lead the discussion if the child is 3 years old or 4 years old, and say, we're going to practice our music today. And you don't have to say, we're going to practice piano today. Because if you're involved in music education for young children, there are more things than piano. There's singing, rhythm ensemble, rhythm stories, the puppets that they're cutting out and using to read their stories, and playing the piano, and tin sheet. So you can say, I think that we should figure out when is the best time for you and mommy to do this, or you and daddy to do this. Let's figure that out. So, it seems to be that after you have a little time, when you're home from nursery school and you're kind of, let's have some milk and cookies, or let's have an apple, or let's have a drink, let's have an orange, let's have something refreshing, maybe even wipe your face off with a face cloth. Let's maybe put on a new t-shirt. Something that is refreshing. I think that's really important for children before they practice the piano. So if they have that before they do any kind of music practice, okay, so let's kind of, in Quinn's case, he likes to kind of come home and chill out by watching a little bit of TV, and then say, now, quite soon we're going to have supper. So before supper, I'd like to practice the piano. I think that's a great idea. Don't say, would you like to practice the piano? Would you like to do music before supper? Because the children have many, many wonderful toys, Lego things and all these transformers. So if you say, would you like to play with transformers, or would you like to practice? Guess what they're going to say? Because they don't realize the value of, there's lots of value in transformers too. Not the value of play is very important, but there's a lot of value in practicing music. So as a grandparent or as a parent, I'm going to say, so we're going to practice the piano before supper. And so in a few moments, I'll come in and so sure enough, I walk out of the room, I go and do whatever I have to do. Then in a few moments, I come back in and say, now it's time let's go make some music. And I don't sound hurried. I think it's really important when you are setting the schedule that you set it at a time when you can face it. It would not be suitable for Quinn to practice his music in the morning because he likes to get up and there's a whole other routine with breakfast and he likes to have his little playtime. So that wouldn't make him happy. When you're setting your music schedule, you don't want to have children crying setting the schedule. Everybody needs to try to work together to figure out what schedule's best. The other thing that happens as school starts is beavers start and all kinds of other things start. So you need to look at the calendar, a 7-day calendar, and say, okay, we have beavers on Thursday. So, that probably won't be a good day for doing any of our music practice. So figure out what days you can't and work the times into the other days. And at some time will work. I mean, I used to do tune sheet with Mark and Olivia before they went to sleep at night. So we read a story, we did tune sheet. Not very long, but it didn't interrupt the schedule. And I was very busy. I mean, I was teaching 136 students a week. And so I had to really work it into their schedule, but I also had to work it into my schedule so that they could practice.
We will continue with the second part of this interview in the coming weeks. Thanks for listening to Happy Bird Music Studio Podcast, a teaching studio and music education blog and podcast for parents and students. Please visit the website at happybirdmusicstudio.ca.